I'm the hustler kind of definition, but not the one that is there. There is hope in agriculture. You see the way we are changing the land into concrete. There will be a time when we will be bringing down those buildings to do agriculture. My name is Dr. Nderitu, and I am a mother of 3 children and a wife. I grew up just like any other child, being raised in the village, coming from Nyeri County, Tetu constituency. Being raised in the village, typically going to a school in the rural area. My primary school has quite a hard name, Gathathini Primary School, somewhere on the slopes of the Aberdares. And my growing up was based on peasant farming, and actually going to the people's farms to support with the casual labor and helping my parents to get extra cash and run the household economy. So I grew up, studied, went to high school in Tumutumu Girls. At least that one was, was something. By then it was a provincial high school, which was a real achievement for a girl from my place. Actually, I was the top girl in our primary school. A primary school that you go barefooted. So it was quite an achievement. And I think also my parents were very happy and excited, including my society, because it's not so many girls who could make to that level of education. But I was determined. So I went to Tumutumu Girls. I did my 4 years. I succeeded. And then I joined University of Nairobi. I did my bachelor's. And after the University of Nairobi, I remember when I just cleared the undergrad is when South Sudan was gaining its independence. And there was all this hula baloo of the support to repatriate the refugees back to South Sudan and all that. And myself, with a group of 5 undergraduate students, got an opportunity to apply to volunteer in South Sudan. So we applied to an organization that is called Omedia Net from the US, and we were funded to go. So we were supported, our logistics, food, accommodation, all that, and travel was funded. And before then, we also had a training, because we were to go and support the community on training and creating awareness on girl-child education, water and sanitation, and also on issues to do with HIV and AIDS. Now that most people will be going back, then there was that projection that there would be influx of that kind of issues in the economy. So we were trained, and then we went to South Sudan in a place called Kichkwon in Upper Nile of South Sudan. And our role was to train TOTs, trainers of trainers, like the teachers in that area, to train them on water and sanitation and advocating for girl-child rights. Because again, in South Sudan by then, there was a lot of early marriages. So a girl, even at 9 years, could be married off. So even presenting myself with one more girl, we went 2 girls and 4 guys. So it was a good example to show that you can have young girls who can study and become something, who can read and write, because reading and writing was something for South Sudan. So I think that really opened my horizon, and I realized things are possible. And you can go to places. You just need to have confidence. You have to believe in yourself, and talk to people, because we didn't know a media net, but we approached them and they funded our cause. So I believe for the young people, for example, if you believe in a cause, just pursue it, and nature will conspire and make it successful for you.
So where did your passion for environment and climate issues begin from?
I would say it began from my small background, being raised, interacting with the soil, growing food, taking the cattle to the river to take water, getting some fodder for the cattle. So for me, environmental issues were not foreign in interaction with the nature. As I said, I come just a kilometer away from the Aberdares. So that is a place where we used to go for firewood. And sometimes there was this shamba system that the government had for conserving the environment in the forest. So you could, farmers could be given a share. You grow your crops, but also you plant trees until the trees are big enough and they chase you out. So I interacted with that, but also my perspective was also shaped by the late Professor Wangari Maathai. She comes from my constituency, and I could see every time she's advocating for environmental conservation, tree planting, tree growing, and I was always fascinated by her passion, and I felt that I can too become a small Wangari Maathai. And why not? So I would say that my environment shaped my love for environment, and going forward, now having this greater horizon and perspective of things, I realized that climate change issues are also becoming a serious issue for our community. I remember on our farm, we had a small spring and a dam, natural dam that was there. But by the time I was clearing university, there was no stream and there was no dam. The reason is people had cut trees, environmental issues had cropped in, climate change issues had also started eating up. And I was wondering, what is this? We no longer have a dam where we can take our cows to drink water. So as I went on with my education, and having gone to Sweden for my master's back then I realized there's a lot of conversation on climate change issues. And I studied it further and realized, oh, this is the reason why our water has dried on in our village. And I really got interested in pursuing climate change issues, and especially on adaptation, because climate change adaptation is core for Africa. We are grappling with a lot of challenges that are being brought by climate change. And therefore, then the question is, how can our people adapt better? How can we respond to the changes that are coming that we have no control of? But then, should we look at it as a challenge and leave it like that, or should we pursue the opportunities? And actually, that is my research base for my PhD study. I looked at the social and environmental opportunities that are being brought by the effects of climate change.
You talked of Wangari Maathai. She's one of the role models in Kenya, and one of the people that everyone looks up to in terms of environment. Did you ever have an interaction with her, and how was it?
Yes, I did, and it was really, I remember there was this time she was vying for MP for Tetu. And I believed in her story so much that I was an agent. You know, those agents who go and look at votes. Are you stealing my votes or what? So I actually was an agent for her because I really believed in her, and I knew that she can bring the change that we so desire. So I had interactions with her, and especially to the run up to the elections, because she definitely had to meet the agents and people who are on her side, and I think I really got inspired. But even looking at just listening to her was just inspirational. But I actually interacted with her closely during that time when she was vying for MP for Tetu.
Okay. What does it cost to be a woman in science who refuses to sanitize the truth?
I have had challenges even getting into the employment space, where you also want to, you apply for a job, but sometimes you realize that a man has been chosen over you. So the challenges are there, being in a society where patriarchy system is core. And sometimes women are looked at to be seen but not to be heard. and the trust, in climate and environmental issues, then it's science. And sometimes people would want to feel that women in STEM, women in science are not up to task as compared to men. So those are some of the challenges, but you have to press on, and until now you show yourself and people start believing in you. That's when now people think that, oh, now I think we see what she meant. But it is real, and it's been hard even getting into the teaching space. Maybe one thing that I would say is that when you go to the university levels, you realize that we have this silo thinking. Like if I'm a physics guy, I'm a physics, chemistry, without really interacting with the other aspects of life. I have also a background in social sciences, and now bringing in climate issues, and now getting into the space of now discipline in the universities where they want to look at, we want a pure meteorologist, for example, without thinking that meteorology without people, what is it? Because it is the people who are influencing the environment. If you look at the science behind climate change, naturally climate changes. But what is the climate change that we are experiencing today? It is the one that man has induced. It is the one that has made the global warming to happen today. The greenhouse gases emissions are increasing because of our activities. So if you cannot be able to understand the psychology of the human, then how can you deal with the physical environment? Because I believe that if it were not for the men and women's activities on this world, we wouldn't be speaking about the climate change issues that we are talking about today. So in the setup where people are so focused on, okay, I'm a mathematician, or I'm a person in chemistry, and I don't want to know what else is happening, then that is a problem. So when you present yourself, besides being a woman, then you present yourself as this person who can deal with, neutralize both sectors, then it becomes very hard for you to cope. But I thank God that there are people who believed in me, and that is how I found myself in this space.
At what point now did you decide that I want to focus on my master's, then my PhD in agriculture?
Yeah, so I think that at that point when I went to South Sudan, it was also the time that kind of you finding yourself. You have this world open, you are young, you're still youthful, and you feel that it is time to find your space. So after working in South Sudan, I also, in Upper Nile, I also worked with a transport company that transports by ship, or we called them barges, along the River Nile, going from Juba to Kosti in the Sudan, now the North Sudan. And there I would advise on environmental issues, the environmental sustainability, health and safety of, occupational health and safety. And it is from there then that I decided that I'm still young, but I also need to focus on, I do not want to lose and concentrate on looking for money without really building a good base. So I applied for a master's program in Sweden and a scholarship from the Swedish Institute. Thank you to the taxpayers from Sweden that I actually managed to study a master's. So I went to a university called the Swedish Agricultural University in SLU. It's called SLU in short, in Uppsala, Sweden. So I studied my environmental management and governance. The science part, studied environmental impact assessment, understood how it should happen, and then I came back to my country. And then after that, I interned at NEMA, the National Environment Management Authority. I did 1 year of internship, where now I really interacted with the actual policy issues. And enforcement issues of policies, working on environmental impact assessment, environmental education, working on projects that are cross-border and ecosystem-based. For example, the Mara ecosystem-based projects. So, with the continuous working and gaining the experience on the now practical sides of environmental issues, I now decided that I think I need to add a little bit, and now this idea of climate change had really started getting into me, and I applied for my PhD at University of Nairobi, Institute of Climate Change and Adaptation, and that is how I found myself grounded into this space.
So after the PhD, did you go straight to VI Agroforestry, or you've worked with other organizations?
In between doing my PhD and I'm the hustler kind of definition, but not the one that is there. Okay, in between I started consulting as I study, because I need my income. I have a small family. I forgot to tell you that I started my PhD when my firstborn was 6 months old. So I had to also earn something. So I used to consult on environmental issues, even going all the way to Bulahawa in Somalia for environmental impact assessment for irrigation projects. So I continuously worked, and at some point I was also lecturing at the university. I lectured at JKUAT. I also lectured at Technical University of Kenya on part-time as I study. And that was very important for me to keep the momentum for studying. You know, it's not easy to study when you're a mother. You need to keep on reminding yourselves that there are books and this is how I can deal with the books. So I did my part-time teaching, and at some point, by the time I was graduating, I already had 2 children in the process, and I got an opportunity now to work as a permanent employee for Technical University of Kenya, where I was lecturing at the Department of Geosciences. So there now, it is about imparting knowledge to the young people, which I love. Really working with the young people, because you know they challenge you, they are innovative, and at some point I could see I'm inspiring them, because I was still a little bit young. Maybe I'm their big sister or something, and they could feel really inspired. We really created a bond with my students, and we could study. And I always told my students, I'm not seeing you as a student, but I'm seeing you as a professional colleague. I mean, we are in the same sector, so I don't want to feel like this old kind of teaching profession where you feel now the authority. But I really wanted to have these students who really saw me as their professional colleague. And it is true, because right now, those who graduated, some of them we have met in the field. So I think that really made my teaching easy, appreciating that the students also know something. Can we exchange ideas? What do you think about your location? What projects can you develop? Because also it is not about theory. You ask your students, develop a project for your area and tackle the problem that is happening in your area. And students bring out very brilliant ideas and solutions for the challenges that the communities are having.
At what point did you get to VI?
Okay, then yeah, I taught at the university, and in 2021, actually in 2020 and during COVID time, I saw the advert for VI, and actually I think I applied almost the last day, because at some point I saw it's a regional position. I didn't know what that would mean, but then I said, let me just apply. So in 2021, I got the invitation for the interview, and the process went on. And in July 2021, I joined VI Agroforestry. And the reason why I felt that VI Agroforestry, not because that I didn't love my teaching job, I loved it, but I felt that now it was time for me to now practice, put into actual practice of what I've been teaching or theoretical part, and this was the best place for me to really showcase that, to really show what actually should happen on the ground. And working with the smallholder farmers, as VI does, I thought it was the best opportunity for me to take. And remember, I have come from a family where we did smallholder farming. So it really resonated with me. It was close home. I felt, even when I go to the field, I feel these people are living the same life that I was living when I grew up. So it really connects with me in a very different, I don't know, maybe you cannot understand, but it's in a special way, because I see myself in that household. And I feel that this is what should happen. For example, we should advise the farmers that I have this piece of farm. It is 1 acre. How can I best utilize this farm? How can I plan my farm? Because it is all about optimizing the resources that you have, but in a sustainable way. So if I have this small farm and I want food, I want money in my pocket, I want a fruit, I want timber, then how can I plan for this? So really working with farmers to really plan together, like this is what I would want as a farmer, and you give the technical advice, really inspires me. And I thank VI Agroforestry really for really taking up that opportunity to actually fill the gap, and especially the gap on extension services. We know that naturally it's supposed to be the mandate of the government to offer agricultural extension services to the smallholder farmers, but the resources are not enough. So it is these non-state actors like VI Agroforestry who come in to support the farmers, to support the farmer organizations, because we actually really work with the farmer organizations who are member-based, to train them on the best or the good agricultural practices that are supposed to be undertaken in a certain agroecological zone, and ensure that they are really able to also support the farmers that are their members, including on market development and market linkages. Financial inclusion is also very key, which I feel, especially for the female farmers. In most cases, if you walk to the bank as a woman, sometimes they will look at you like this, and they will ask themselves, will this person really repay? Just because you are a woman, and also because you know that land rights is also a question. Maybe the woman doesn't have a title to give as a guarantee. So, but when now you start thinking about financial inclusion from the VI Agroforestry's perspective, really encouraging the village savings and loaning associations where women are really building themselves and creating something out of themselves really becomes a very important factor. So I think I'm in the right space where I can really support, I can share my knowledge and experiences with the people who really need this kind of support.
Okay, let's talk about climate change. What does it look from your perspective, especially on the East African context?
Oh, climate change is real. First, I should say that. We have seen the changes in terms of heat has increased, temperatures are higher. We've seen even when it rains also, it rains, a lot of water comes, if I may use the rainfall distribution, what we call the rainfall distribution has changed, such that the rain will come so much in a shorter period, and that transforms into flooding. What does flooding do? It erodes the soil, it carries away the nutrients that are in the soil, it makes gullies, all those negative aspects that come into our environment, therefore distorting the natural production of our land. So increasingly, these environmental changes are affecting the communities in terms of lack of food, nutrition is also affected, livestock die. We've also seen people die. Property destruction, where we have even infrastructure destruction of maybe bridges, roads, and all this adds to the cost of running an economy. So if we fail to work on, to value, we need to value the cost of not working towards environmental conservation. Because the minute you fail to value that and to understand what is the cost, then you'll not do anything about it. But if you can be able to see, okay, I'm in this policy making table, if we fail to invest in agroforestry or agroecology, for example, it means that we'll have more degraded land, which is equal to food insecurity, nutritional insecurity. What does that nutrition or food insecurity mean in terms of budget for the country? It means we are going to import a lot of food, affecting our local economy and affecting the health of the people. What is the cost of treating malnutrition, for example? So you have to look at it in a holistic way, instead of just looking at it as it is just rainfall that has been too much, or we do not have rainfall and that's it. Let's look at issues in a holistic way so that we are able to put in place strategies that can really revert all these issues. But the other thing that I would want to add is the question on biodiversity conservation. As much as we've been talking more about climate change, biodiversity loss is also a big challenge. Biodiversity loss means that we are losing our food varieties, what we call the germplasms, whether it is for the livestock or for the crops, which means increasingly we'll be getting food varieties, crop varieties that are not adaptable to our environment. For example, it means that if this is not originary or indigenous to this area, it is likely to be hit by any small insect disease that comes, the weather changes. While else, our own traditional breeds and variety of crops can withstand this because it is naturally from this environment. So for me, I really want to advocate for biodiversity conservation, and especially to ensure that we do not lose our indigenous crops and livestock breeds. And this is also a challenge to the government with the policies that are coming on the seeds, on the livestock. Can we have progressive policies that actually support our own seed system, such that the farmers can be able to conserve the seeds, our traditional seeds that we have, but also we can be able to exchange. We have exchanged seeds since time immemorial, so it is also good for us to have our farmers get this platform where they can actually do seed exchange in a manner that is allowed by the law. So going forward, I think it is a challenge to the policymakers to really look at the policies that are coming that look punitive to the farmer and that look like they are going to steal our sovereignty, especially for food and the seed system.
Okay, talking of food security, preservation of indigenous crops and so on, the country is on the verge of importing 80% of the rice consumed in the country. How did we get here?
I would say politics, because if we have political will, we can get anywhere and we can get whatever we want to. Because it is, as much as most people who are maybe elite, they don't want to engage in politics, and I think that is a problem that we have been having, just dismissing. But you remember that politics actually contribute to the decisions that are being made in a country. So I do not think that we do not have enough rice from where. You had the farmers complaining and asking, we have our rice here. And it is not only rice, we've had maize in the past. We've had sugarcane in the past, that farmers feel they have enough, but the government decides otherwise to import. So I think what we are lacking is the political will, and until we become patriotic enough, the people in the position of making decisions, we become patriotic enough to even follow the constitution, to follow the law, and to know that these are our people, and whatever affects them actually affects us. So I think the call is to the political class to have this political will to really support our smallholder farmers in the market. Because if we are not really developing the market systems, it is one thing to ask the farmer to grow ABCD crops or to grow a certain tree, but at the end of the day, it is also about livelihood. It is also about the income. So if I grow my rice and I don't have a market, will I be motivated as a smallholder farmer? So the question is, what is the political status of food system in a country? And I think for our Kenyan context, we still have a long way to go to have the political will for the right support for the smallholder farmers. And this also influences even the policies that are being made that support, whether it is inputs, whether it is whatever subsidies that is supposed to go to agricultural production, and whether also including the post-harvest management practices or technologies that are available for us. So my call is to the political class to really look at the smallholder farmers in our country in a good way. And the other thing maybe I should mention is also to involve, now besides the market, there's also the question like for the Kural Galana, that project. The question is, why is it not successful? We've put billions of money into that project, but what happened? Did we harvest anything that contributed to food security in the country? We are getting towards that, but I also feel that the science should be involved also in terms of understanding the agroecological zones and what crops should grow in a certain area. We have primarily decided that maize is the only food crop that we can grow. So we force maize to Garissa, we force maize to Tana River, we force maize to coast. But what is the natural soil structures? Does it support maize? Why can't our government sit down with the scientists and they advise that in this area, for example, this is the type of a crop that can grow in this area in the maximum? Because I do not think that maize is actually the right crop for Garana.
So this is where you guys come in.
Yes, so this is where science now comes in and expertise comes in. You come, we are going to test the soil, we are going to test the nature of the water. Is it salty? There are some crops that will not survive in salty water. So what are you doing? Forcing maize where it cannot grow will never get anywhere. But we also have other crops that can do well in such kind of a soil. For example, pineapples. Why can't we be the best pineapple producers in that area and develop the market? So there are all those things that the government needs to put in place, but most importantly also to involve scientists in the decision-making platform.
From where you sit, do you believe Kenya can sustain itself matters food production?
Yes, we can. That one is a straight yes. We just need to have the right political will, because we have the land, we have the natural resources that are required. We just need to put in place the right systems. If it is irrigation, let it be irrigation, let it be done in the right way. Let us not have white elephants in terms of projects. If we have set a budget for doing a dam in a certain place to support farmers to produce food crops, why do we go a whole cycle of 5 years and another 5 years without anything happening on the ground? So I feel like systematically the government has sabotaged its own citizens into being food secure. So I think they need to work a little bit harder and ensure that they speak and they do.
What are some of the challenges that you're going through while doing this course, in terms of you dealing with smallholder farmers? Most of the time you're even interacting with people who are illiterate or semi-illiterate. What are some of the challenges that you encounter and how do you go around them?
First, one of the challenge, and really that sometimes becomes very hard to control, is the impact of the climate change, because it is natural occurrence in the country or in the region, but you still want to see this farmer adapting to this climate change, and resources are not enough. For example, you need to have irrigation as an organization like the agroforestry might not be in a position to do an irrigation scheme, massive irrigation scheme like what the government is supposed or expected to do. So that really can give you frustrations, because you really want this farmer to really adapt and to really have enough for their households, but it is not up to what you can be able to do. But continuously we work in collaboration with the government, the county governments, the districts in for example in Uganda and Tanzania, and really advocate for infrastructure development, especially that is required for agriculture and irrigation systems. The other thing that is also a challenge is when is the gender issues, the norms, the culture that we have. As I had said, that our society is quite patriarchal based, and now when you go to the farms, it is the woman who is working on the land. But now, when the harvest is there and the benefits are coming, it is the man who will come and receive the money. Yet the person who has been on the ground is a woman. So sometimes that also poses a challenge. You'd want to have both man and woman in the household work together to really ensure that whatever they have, it's theirs, but not like one person to feel like I'm working and the other one is just benefiting. So the cultural norms are also a challenge, but we have been able to come around that. We have, for example, a tool that we use that is called the household roadmap, that really brings together a household as a household, man, wife, and their children, and they are able to plan ahead. They say, now this is our vision journey. This is where we are. For example, in 5 years, we would want to have maybe zero grazing. We would want to have this farm producing XYZ. Our house needs to be on a permanent house and all that. So when you bring them on board, both of them and their household, and they plan their own journey, the vision journey that they want to be maybe in 5 years. So I think that has also helped us to really reduce the gender issues and gaps that are there. The other challenge that is core is also the financial aspect. The resources are never enough. So it is still a challenge and it is still a gap. And even looking at the current prevailing funding space, you all know what happened with the USAID, for example, pulling out. It means that the space for the opportunities to get resources that can be utilized by the project to support the farmers is increasingly reducing, and therefore we have to also reduce maybe the scopes at some point, and that also affects what you'd really want to see on the ground as an organization. So financial constraints and the resources also, it's a huge challenge when you really want to reach to the most needy people in the region.
What lessons have you learned so far from this course that you've been doing with the farmers, and maybe what are the positives that you've seen?
Lessons that I have learned is that, one, our farmers or our communities in the region are very resilient, and they just need some support for them to pick up, because they are very receptive to learning. They are very receptive to understanding. When an expert comes on the ground, they will listen, they will ask questions, they will engage, they will also share their experiences, and they will also share what they think is the solution for the problems that they are going through. And the minute they understand an innovation, for example, they take it up and they run with it. So the only challenge comes that if, for example, I'm doing beekeeping, for example, and now I have all this honey, is the market system well established to keep motivating the farmer to continue engaging in that business? So I think the lesson that I would say very important is that our farmers are very ready to take up innovations, to take up nature-based solutions, but we also need to go to the next step of market development and linkages, so that you keep this farmer motivated Yeah.
You advocate for less use of pesticides. That means we adapt natural solutions of treating our crops, treating our animals. But definitely, this means less business for the people that sell pesticides. And so, what challenge do you face most during such occasions?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. Actually, this year we launched a policy brief on agroecology and agroforestry as an alternative to the use of the synthetic pesticides and the agrochemicals that we are having. And it is a very dicey situation and a very tricky one dealing with the multinationals, because all the pesticides, the synthetic pesticides that are produced, they are not produced in Africa. They are coming from somewhere. And during the development of the policy brief, we also realized that as you do your literature review, you realize that some of these pesticides that are getting into our market are actually banned in the countries where they are produced. So we've become a dumping site for those harmful pesticides, and yet when we use them here and want to export our produce, it will not be accepted in the countries where these pesticides are coming from. So that is a big challenge, and it is a multi-billion dollars venture. So obviously, as much as you'll push, obviously you'll also be pushed back. But I would want to commend our government, Kenyan government, because a few weeks ago I realized that the CS also banned about 70 ingredients of these harmful pesticides, which is it's better than not just keeping quiet. So we hope that progressively we are going to see total ban of these synthetic pesticides, and especially those that are harmful to us and harmful to the environment, and those that are banned in the countries of origin. For example, EU. There are so many of them that are banned from EU, but they find themselves here. So, and the call is also not to only have one country acting. I would love to see it as an East African community or an AU agenda, so that we wipe off all these harmful synthetic agrochemicals from our continent, because many people are dying out of diseases that are linked to these pesticides, and we are consuming every day. Sometimes our farmers are not aware. So what we have now embarked on is to create awareness to our farmers and to our local partners, and to ensure that they understand this is the list, for example, of the banned pesticides from EU. Can you interact with them? Do you see the ingredients that are banned? From these chemicals that are coming that your farmers or me as a farmer is using, am I seeing this chemical? If I'm seeing it banned from this list and it is on my shelf, then I'm not supposed to buy. But most importantly is to ensure that the farmer understands the harmful nature, because it is not only harming the environment, it is also harming your household and yourself who is using. So that is the most important thing that we have embarked on, and we have also embarked on providing solutions, because alternatives, because you cannot say, okay, we ban this, but you are not showing me what should I. Yeah. And one solution is use of agroecology and agroforestry, which are systems that really advocate into using what is locally available, using bio inputs, just by way of maybe mixing a few plants. You get for example, if you mix Mexican marigold and Tithonia, you get a pesticide that you can apply, but it is a natural pesticide that will not harm your health.
Let's say, for example, if African farmers design the climate agenda, how different would it look from the one written at Brussels or at New York?
I think how that climate agenda would look like, it's more on adaptation. Naturally, we are at the equator, most of the African countries, and we are highly impacted by the effects of climate change. When the sun hits, it really hits. Temperatures can go even to 45 in some cases. So I think what the agenda for Africans would be is to ensure that we have enough adaptation funds to make sure that we are able to fund our response to the changes of climate change. If it is the floods, how do we respond to these floods? If it is the drought, have we put in place irrigation systems? Have we put in place a good post-harvest management, storage, and all that? So actually the question on adaptation is the agenda for Africa.
Okay. And as we start winding up, I want to understand, you work with rural women, and not as beneficiaries but as builders. What's the story that still clings to you, and one that has changed how you lead?
I think working with rural communities, and especially women, has a way of touching any human being, if you asked me. Because these rural women, they are working on their farms, they are carrying children on their back, they are fetching water, they are some sort of managers, and they actually inspire you because they are leaders in their own right, and they are able to coordinate all these issues that are supposed to be coordinated in the household. And even in some cases, if there is a person who is sick in that home, they also become their doctors. So it is very inspiring to work with rural communities and to make sure, especially for women, that they can be empowered. I think that is what really makes me wake up and feel inspired, because I would like to see this woman having their own money, making their own decisions, and making meaningful decisions. Because sometimes you are working with the farm organizations, for example, or cooperatives or unions, and sometimes you find that women are just included, because the law asks to include them. But I would want to reach to a point where they're not just included just because we need to have the two-thirds or something, but to ensure that their participation is meaningful. So it is not just about, okay, now we have annual meeting, general annual meeting, and now we had 5 women, but what did they do? Is a woman in the board, for example, just there to sign? Or are they really influencing the agenda? Are you listening to what this woman would want? For example, if you're discussing about water issue, you cannot have a meeting just having men alone, and you've not brought the woman to say, what are the challenges? How would you want this water issue to be solved? What would you require? So it is that really that inspires me to ensure that women really are in the heart of things. They can really make decisions. They can speak and be heard, not just to be put there as people just to sign or to raise hand and say we had 10 women in the meeting, but to really actually get them involved in the right way and to speak up and build their capacity and empower them.
Wow. Talking of women, how do you teach these women to trust their knowledge when every expert around them is foreign, male or both?
Yeah, that is a good question, and I would say there are many ways that you can use to ensure that women are heard or are free to participate, and it depends with the context. It depends from one community to the other. For example, if you come to Nairobi, women are outspoken, maybe they can even speak in front of men. But now go to West Pokot, for example, a rural area where the culture says, for example, you should not speak when you're looking at a man like this, or you cannot stand in front of men. So what we do is when we get to the ground, we understand the community, their culture. We do something that is called conflict sensitivity analysis. Because remember, you might go and you're bringing development, but you leave issues in the household. So it is good to understand what is this community that you're working with, And once we establish their culture, and maybe we realize that women might not talk in front of men, then sometimes we take women alone, we have our conversation, we take men alone, we have our conversation until a place where now, and until when maybe even men feel comfortable that they can engage as a group, both men and women. But now this is getting the ideas of women alone also helps you to now start strategizing and planning, and also ensuring that since, as you said it, you'll find that in these deep rural areas, most of the women are not educated, because obviously from the gender perspective, the boy child is given maybe priority to go to school and the girl was not. And she was married off when she was very young. So most likely she doesn't even know Swahili. She doesn't. Them slowly by slowly, let them understand where you're here. Also ask them what are the issues, for example. If you're having issues with livestock keeping or with your farming, what are the challenges that you're experiencing? Do you have a solution? Because in most cases, they have a solution. And the other thing that I would want to add is that indigenous knowledge is very important, and science cannot ignore indigenous knowledge. It is good for us as experts and the communities to work together. And who better holds this, is the custodian of this indigenous knowledge? It is the woman, because she's the one who interacts with the ground every day. She's waking up, either she's going to fetch firewood, fetching water, growing vegetables. It's like they understand the environment in a very special way, and they are more likely to give you a solution to a problem that you're experiencing. We have also noted that regionally, the women are also the ones who really understand which herb, for example, can cure ABCD. They are the ones who knows that if I use this herb, my child will stop vomiting. So it is, you see, they have some knowledge that maybe science doesn't have, or we can work together with science and improve it and ensure that we co-create knowledge, co-create products, co-create and bring innovation that the farmers can absorb. Because again, if you bring a foreign thing, it will land and people will be saying, oh, this project is for this and this is for so and so, but lack of ownership. So it is important for development partners also to consider ownership that is supposed to come from the community, the farmers, understanding that this is for us. And funny thing that maybe I should raise is that when you bring a project and fail to engage the community, imagine it will not go anywhere. But when you design with them from the word go. And that is what we do at VI Agroforestry. We obviously we have this large scale idea that we work in agroforestry and sustainable agriculture land management. That what is working with, together with biodiversity and food security. Then we come and sit together with the local partners. Okay, in this, what are the challenges that you have? Where do you want to go? How can we get to that? So then we could design the program, we could design innovations, we could design everything that we are doing together, so that even when VI Agroforestry is not on the ground, the project will still continue. Other than bringing foreign issues, and when you go, they will say, that one was for VI, we don't know about it. So I think that is very important, looking at the sustainability of issues and ensuring that the community really own the development process.
There's a young girl right now, maybe in Kisii, Kitale, Kitui, Kisumu, anywhere. She's watching rivers dry and elders grow tired. She hears your name, Dr. Monica. What do you want her to know? And not about the crisis, but about her power.
That she has the authority and the energy to change the situation.
So what would be your last words to anyone watching out there, especially the young who are looking at agriculture as an old person's initiative or activity, they don't want to indulge in agriculture, they feel they are more suited for white-collar jobs, what would you want to tell them?
I would want to tell them, first, it's something that I always tell people, that you see all the land, that is the way we are changing the land into concrete. There will be a time when we will be bringing down those buildings to do agriculture. And I would want to tell them there is hope in agriculture. It is a living, the soil is alive. It is just waiting for us to interact with it and do good things. And also, I would also want to tell them that they should not look at it as that handheld hoe that we used to dig. There's a lot of innovation that you can bring in the whole agriculture value chain. You may want to take up at marketing, at packaging, but it's still in the value chain. You may also want to do urban farming, especially for the young farmers who are in the urban areas. Pottery, that is really a very good enterprise. It's agricultural based and you can do it in a small space. So you don't have to go and dig for a whole acre. Just be innovative. Decide, maybe I'll do greenhouse, do this high value crop, and this is where my market is, and this is how I'm going to do the marketing. So it is not about just digging the big land, but it is about how you utilize the opportunities that are coming and doing research on what should I do next. And a lot of innovation has also come in terms of the equipment that you can use, the machinery you can use. They don't have to be huge ones. I was in Addis last week. I had gone for the UN Food Systems +4 summit. And I was very impressed by seeing young girl from Rwanda. She had a startup business, which is food system oriented. She was doing value addition on sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, same, avocado, all that. And her business idea was very clear. She has already started. She was there to look for investors to come in and boost. So if we can do things like those in the agriculture, in the food system value chains, in whatever value chain that you choose, whether you choose to be in coffee, you choose to be in fruits, you should choose to be in herbs, the world is just waiting for innovations. And I'm very sure, for example, that girl is going to get investors who are attracted, because for me, I was wowed. And I wish that most of our young people can just look through and see where their niche is and run with it.